Redshift here, doing my part to shift perceptions out of the pink and into the red. Gold hoarding will not be a problem under a bimetallic standard, that is a gold and silver standard, like we used to have in America, because the more people who hoard gold, the more the value of the gold will go up, and once it goes up enough, people will not be able to resist the temptation to spend it, thus putting a ceiling on how much hoarding will occur. And silver will become more undervalued as people hoard gold, causing people to hoard silver instead, or people will be hoarding silver, but people will be using silver instead of gold, right? So it's not going to create a shortage in money supply if people start hoarding gold. Plus, silver is much more abundant than gold. So, it's not going to be a problem. Plus, the people who save will probably eventually start looking at silver as the undervalued thing that they should start saving instead of gold. And then the smart people will switch out their gold holdings to silver. And then this will start causing silver to rise, and it'll start causing gold's price to go down. And with all those people selling, the gold will start entering the market again. You know, people are gonna, people are gonna start hoarding silver instead, also perhaps, and demand payment in silver as well, thus increasing demand for silver and stalling demand for gold. Stalling demand for gold's growth, that is. The growth in demand for gold will stall, or it will slow down and stall. It might even backtrack, decreasing the price of gold, thus causing. But when it stalls because of increased demand for silver, this will cause people to see the bubble in gold ending. They're like, oh, the gold price is not going up much anymore. I guess we're reaching the peak. I better sell, right? And then they're going to sell, and that causes the price to crash down even more, and then more people sell, and then that becomes a reciprocal thing. Like, when price is rising, it becomes this self-reinforcing thing. The price is going up because people are hoarding, and people are hoarding because the price is going up, right? But eventually, there reaches a point where, people realize what's going on, and then they all start selling. And then once a little bit of people start selling, 1, 5, 10%, whatever, then everybody else starts selling too, because they don't want to be caught at the bottom. They don't want to lose money. So then they sell what they think is the top, right? So that they don't lose money. And so then that causes the price to crash way back down. And not just a little, but probably even it'll fall and even fall below fair market value, right? Before going back up to fair market value again. And then eventually, maybe right away, maybe not, it'll start climbing back up again, above fair market value, but it's like above, below. That's like the cycle, right? And gold and silver are like a balancing out thing for each other, because there's not just one currency. It's kind of like a form of capitalism, It's like competition is good, right? It keeps the prices more fair, and it makes it so that, ability to pay or whatever, because of there being a big enough money supply, is not a problem when you have a bimetallic standard instead of just a gold standard. I think there's a little more to it perhaps, but or maybe another aspect of why a bimetallic standard is good, but basically that's it. They kind of regulate each other. It's a good thing. So yeah, like I said, people will see that the price is coming down for gold, then they're going to get scared, and then they're going to sell. And then that means even more gold enters the market. The price goes lower, even more people sell, even more gold enters the market, and now there's no longer a shortage of gold, right? While people are still hoarding gold, the price of gold will go up and will make previously uneconomical mines suddenly economical. This is another thing. Another reason why, gold hoarding under a gold standard or a bimetallic standard would not, especially under a bimetallic standard, gold hoarding would not decrease the available gold, or at least not nearly as much. Because number one, the price will go up, so therefore the gold that is available, the people will be able to buy up less and less of it. You know what I mean? Like, if gold is like $1,000 an ounce, and your local gold, seller, your local, gold and silver dealer has 1,000 ounces, maybe that can be bought up really easily, right? But if gold is like $1 million an ounce, and the local gold and silver seller only has 1,000 ounces, that 1,000 ounces is going to take a lot longer to sell off, because people only still have roughly the same amount of money, and so they can't buy that up as much. I guess this is probably more true under fiat currency, but I think that same thing still applies, because more people are using silver when they're hoarding gold, right? When everybody's hoarding gold, a lot of people are more using silver as the money. And then the silver is worth a lot less. And so then they try to buy up gold, when they want to save, but they can't buy as much, right? So this means that, the gold that still is available, it doesn't get sold, and, the accounts are empty. Like, you can't get gold anywhere because the price is so high that nobody can afford it anymore. So everybody who has gold, including like the gold sellers, like the gold and silver shops and stuff, they still have gold. So you can still get gold when the price goes way up and stuff due to hoarding. Hoarding's not going to make it so that there's no gold available anywhere. You know what I mean? But also, like I was saying, the price of gold going up makes uneconomical mines suddenly economical. Because it's like, you have a mine, and as the mine gets, like depleted, if this were happening all across the country, all the mines are getting depleted, well, then there'd be less and less new gold coming into the market. And if people were also hoarding, then this means that, there's going to be sort of a shortage of gold, right? Sort of. But not like a real shortage. It's more like the price goes up because more people are hoarding. And the price going up means now the people who had reached a point where, like, they could no longer mine their mine. There was still gold there, but, like, there wasn't nearly as much of it. Instead of like an ounce per 2,000 tons, now it's like an ounce per 10,000 tons, and that's just not economical. It costs too much. It costs more than the amount of gold that they would get out of that dirt to sift all that gold out of that dirt. So now they're not going to get that gold out of that dirt because it costs more money than the money they're going to get out of it. You see, but when the price of gold goes up, if the cost of gold goes up from $1,000 to $10,000 an ounce, like today it's like $1,470 or something, the price of gold or whatever, it's around there, almost $1,500 an ounce. If it went up to like $15,000 an ounce, tons of mines that have been abandoned or shut down or whatever because they're at the end of their life. There's a little more gold in there, but it's not economical to mine. Those mines could be opened up again, and then they could get that gold because it would be profitable now because of the price of gold having gone up, right? So this means that when those mines become economical again, then more gold will be being mined, right? And that would drive down the price of gold and make sure that there's never a true shortage of gold. And the increased scarcity of gold that happens before those previously uneconomical mines are mined, or people start buying things with gold, thus letting more, because of the price of gold having gone up, thus increasing the amount of gold in circulation again. That increased scarcity that happens before that means that everyone has to be far more efficient and careful on what they spend their money on, doesn't it? Or no, actually, I think I got that wrong. They don't have to be more efficient and careful on what they spend their money on. They are less efficient and less careful on what they spend their money on because they have more wealth, because the gold has gone up more in value. This means that they are more likely to spend money as well. And so then businesses and people spend more money, thus making it so that more gold is in circulation. But in general, under a gold standard instead of a fiat currency standard, people in general, businesses, people, everybody has to be, but especially not the common people so much because they don't have, any power or anything, but especially the government, but probably also maybe also the corporations, they have to be more frugal and more meritocratic due to the limited money supply. And this makes the country more of a meritocracy. There's going to be less feminism, less XXers in the workforce. There's going to be more efficiency, more creativity, more investment in the future. Instead of trying to make money through financialization, the companies will be making money through, investment in the future, R&D, and being more careful. They'll hire less corrupt leaders because they know that they need to think long-term and be very efficient and stuff. And so there will be way less corruption in corporations and way less spending and way less corruption in government as well under a gold standard. So all of this means that, even if they have to tighten their belt because of being on a gold standard, that's a good thing. Not only does it mean government is smaller and corporations are less corrupt, and government's less corrupt as well, but it means, less war. It means, more freedom, more innovation, more prosperity, more entrepreneurialism because of the greater freedom, because of the smaller government, because of the gold standard. It's not like government will suddenly be unable to do the roads or something because we're on a gold standard. No. Before we even had taxes, we had a we were able to have roads and stuff. You know what I mean? We were able to protect the country even before we had an army. Meaning, like, we had no army when America was founded. It was founded to have no army, and for a long time we had no army. You know, I don't know how long, but for a while we had no army. And so, you know, you really don't need an army when the whole people are the army, the whole populace, the whole country is the army. When everybody's armed to the teeth. You know, like, now it could be that way again. It really, really could. And so people need to understand that, like, that limitation of sound money is a good thing. It forces people to be more responsible, more moral. And because they're investing in the future, because of the tightness of the money supply, because of gold, this means that there's going to be faster technological advancement and therefore faster increase in standard of living for everyone. From the guy on the street, the homeless guy, all the way to the billionaires. Everybody gets to live better lives because of technology advancing faster, because of the required efficiency that a gold standard requires. You see, but why don't they want this then? Obviously you can see why the government doesn't want it, but why don't the billionaires and stuff want it? I'll tell you why. Because they benefit from government. That fiat currency system helps them. It allows the government to just print up a bunch of money and then give them no-bid contracts to the corporations and stuff. So the government gets to spend more money, and who does it spend that money on? A lot of times it spends it on corporations, because the corporations are the ones that do the military research for them, and a lot of the the digital research and stuff like this. So the government, outsources a lot of the stuff that it does, and it outsources that stuff to corporations. And so the corporations are benefiting from the fiat currency system. The only ones who are being harmed by the fiat currency system are the majority of the people, the 99%, or the bottom 80%, or wherever you want to draw the line. But the vast majority of people are being hurt by the fiat currency system, whereas the people at the top are benefiting from it. And how is that just? The richest are able to get even richer through a dishonest money system? Whereas if we were on an honest money system, the poor would still be poor, but they'd be a hell of a lot less poor. Like how is a fiat currency system in any way, shape, or form fair? Especially since the only way a fiat currency system could work and be fair and good is if government were super moral and super responsible and super wise. But we know that government is not moral, is not wise, and is not efficient. The government is nothing good, and so all it does is waste the power that it gets from fiat currency. Theoretically, it could use that power for good, but it doesn't, and it never will, because, power corrupts. And so when it has that power, it gets corrupted by it. I mean, even without that power, government is corrupt. So, there's absolutely no reason to have a fiat currency system, and every reason in the world to have a gold standard, or preferably a bimetallic standard, or perhaps even more preferably, even more preferably, a Bitcoin standard or something like that. This has been Redshift. I hope this sufficiently answers your question. The Count, sorry I didn't get around to responding to your question until now. I know you asked this question months ago, maybe several months ago, but it's been a long time since you asked a question about whether gold hoarding would make a gold standard non-functional or not. And my indignation in this video is not toward you asking the question, it's toward the assholes in charge who have put us on a fiat currency system, so don't be offended by this video. I hope you can now see that, like many other things, the price of gold and a gold standard, especially a bimetallic standard, that is a gold and silver standard, is a self-regulating thing. I hope you can see that now. I hope you can see that it's a self-correcting thing. And it doesn't get super out of whack like fiat currency does. Fiat currency just gets more and more and more out of whack until the whole empire collapses. But gold and silver standards do not work that way. They're like a stock market back in, like, the 1910s to the 1920s or something, right? Like it gets bigger, like not the 1910s, 20s, sorry, because that's even after the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve is distorting everything, and that's what led to the 1929 crash that caused the Great Depression. And that was worsened even by more Federal Reserve action. But anyway, like in the 1800s, before we had a Federal Reserve and stuff, like the stock market would rise, and then it would get too much, and then it would crash, and then it would be down too low, everybody would realize it's undervalued, they'd buy, and then it'd go back up again, and then it'd crash. You just go up and down, up and down, up and down. But there basically, between that, there'd be a regular, even state that would not go up or down, right? But under fiat currency, there are still ups and downs, but they're smaller ups and downs. But the average is not a flat thing. It's going down, 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 down until the empire collapses due to poverty and revolution because of poverty. You see, so a gold and silver standard do have fluctuation just like the stock market, up and down, but they don't eventually get more and more and more out of whack until a collapse happens. That's something that only happens under fiat currency. And that's one of the reasons that empires do collapse, because of fiat currency. I think it was the Byzantine Empire. I read in I think it was that book on The Creature from Jekyll Island was the book. I think that was the book that said that like the Byzantine Empire lasted for like 800 or 900 years, or maybe it was only 600, whatever. It was a really, really, really long time, way longer than America, because they had a gold standard for almost the entire empire. And it was only when they went off the gold standard and used fiat currency that the empire then eventually started getting out of whack, and then it eventually collapsed after like 100 years or whatever, right? Just like us, right? Like if a country stays on a gold standard, the country is totally stable and will last possibly forever, because the country is forced to be moral because of the honest money, and the poverty doesn't increase, leading to revolution because of the gold standard. You see, gold standard can literally make an empire last forever. And you know what they did in the Byzantine Empire? They had the death penalty for anybody who fucked with the money supply. You know, if you were like, you know, diluting the money supply or something, that was a death penalty offense. Or maybe if you're stealing as well, whatever. If you had to be a super high character person to work in banking and deal with the gold supply. You know what I mean? Not that banking was anything like it is today. You know, it didn't use fiat currency system. It probably didn't even give out loans, but it had to do with, like, if you were in one of those people in charge of like coining the money and stuff, right, back then. What was then a banker, then it was a situation where like you were in such a huge position of trust, and the whole stability of the empire was dependent on you, and they knew that fiat currency was so evil that like if you were, you know, fucking with the money supply, you were put to death, because they understood how important sound money was to a lasting empire, you know. So yeah, it's a self-regulating thing, a gold or silver currency is, or preferably a gold and silver currency, where you can use either one. Hopefully this answered your question, and hopefully other people learned something from this video as well. Peace.